Mum, I'm driving right now, actually. You always nag the drivers who are rushing down the highway, distracted by their phones. And now you're distracting me yourself. Why am I speeding? Because I want to be on time. You raised me to be responsible. Mum, I'm not laughing. I'll call you Sunday night, okay? Hi to Dad. Bye, kisses. Finishing the call, Kevin couldn't hold back a wide smile. Mum, she doesn't change. It was from her that Kevin inherited the methodical persistence needed to achieve his goal. Thanks to all this, a country boy from the backwoods, who was born into the family of a timber processing plant driver and a village accountant, and had managed to turn into the owner of a large and quite successful wholesale company in the city. Having more or less confidently established himself in the city, he immediately began to persuade his parents to move in with him from their northern village. I'll buy you an apartment not far from me, so that, in case of emergency, I can help you quickly. I know you want to do what's best in your opinion, his father grinned, not without pride. But I've had my whole life here, Kevin. Neighbours, friends, fishing spots, hunting and mushrooming. All this is here. I'll find something to do here every day in my retirement. Can you imagine me in the city? I'm not used to theatres and museums. I'm not interested. There are no friends there, no one to go fishing or to the bathhouse with. I've never lived in an apartment and I don't want to start. I need my own house and my own yard to go out, and here's this wild forest. You've started to earn money. Soon you'll want to have a family, and you'll have a place to bring the kids on vacation. Your mum and I will be delighted to spend time with them. Mum, what about you? Kevin said enthusiastically, hoping his mother would like to move to the city. Kevin, we're quite happy with life in the north, although I miss you very much. I don't want to move out. I'm in the comfort zone here. We are rather young with your father, Kevin. We don't need much help. We manage on our own. When you have children, and you need my help with grandchildren, then maybe we'll move, if we get along with your wife. Kevin knew his mother too well. If she said no, then she could change her mind, but only after much independent thought. However, the man never lost hope of changing his parents' minds. When assertiveness, practicality, and a bit of luck allowed him to start his own business and gradually increase turnover, he purchased a small house in the green suburb near the city and brought his parents there for a visit. Look at this gorgeous place. Forest, big lake, fresh air. We will do the repairs in any style you choose, Kevin exclaimed. Kevin, do what you want with the house, it's yours. You'll probably bring a young mistress soon, and 2 mistresses cannot coexist in one house. It's very rare for them to get along comfortably. Bart and I are proud of you, and will gladly visit you, but we have our own house, his mum replied, unwavering like a small, sturdy rock. And so far, Kevin hadn't been able to persuade his parents to move to him. After talking to his mother on the phone, Kevin saw the gas station sign and decided to refuel. Getting out of the car, Kevin took in a breath of air, a mixture of gasoline and dried grass. In 20 metres from the gas station, there was a bonfire burning at a safe distance, with several young guys warming up in front of it. A sharp, piercing voice interrupted Kevin's thoughts. "Let go of the dog, jerk!" Kevin saw a skinny, long-haired, red-haired girl in a short jacket, tight jeans and rubber boots. "It's not your business," came a lazy response to the sharp exclamation. The other guys laughed. Kevin became warier. He hadn't liked these kinds of boys since childhood. "Give me the dog," the girl demanded sharply. "We'll put your mutt on the grill and roast it, and we'll fry you too, but with a different recipe, if you don't stop bothering us," one of the guys said with annoyance. "Not very scary," the girl said, however with a slight fear. Suddenly, the big guy loosened his grip, and the dog jumped out of his arms. The girl immediately caught and hugged the shaggy, dirty dog by the neck. The guys moved threateningly towards the girl, and Kevin thought it was time for him to intervene. Honey, you've talked to the guys and that's enough. We have to go. Oh, right. Okay, guys, I gotta go, declared the sharp-witted girl, dramatically shaking her hair. She turned and walked confidently toward Kevin, who had been standing near his new fancy car. Thank you, the girl said. Where can I take you? Kevin inquired almost indifferently, like the answering machine of a rescue service. The girl currently was no longer in danger of being victimized by hoodlums, and some reasonable detour could be made to take her home, but it was not at all curious to socialize with her. Strangers should at least introduce themselves to each other firstly, she reminded him calmly. Kevin was surprised by her answer, and finally took a closer look at her. The girl wore a shabby and scruffy clothes. Each boot had at least 2 kilograms of clay. Wow, what a noble woman in poverty. Pardon my terrible manners. My name is Kevin, and would you mind telling me where to take you so you don't get into any more trouble? My name is June, and I'm afraid there is no such place. The girl replied with a hint of sadness. Look, just because you had a fight with Mum and Dad doesn't mean you have to make them worried about you. How old are you? And what happened to you? My parents won't track me down. I'm actually already 22, though I'm used to being often mistaken for a 16-year-old. I finished accounting school, as she advised. I was even going to look for a job in my major, like my mum said. But why didn't she ask me for my advice when she got married to that jerk she trusted more than me? She's a nurse, she works in shifts, and she is on call a lot. And her new husband, Tom, is a mechanic at a confectionery factory. He is always at home in the evenings, and then one day I warmed up dinner for us in the evening, and he first touched my shoulder, then my knee. Then he became even more insistent. He got angry with my refusal and warned me that if I didn't get smart, he'd find a way to kick me out of the house. I hesitated, but decided to tell my mum. She had the right to know who she lived with. But to my great shock, then she told me that I was selfish, that she had raised me with such difficulty, and now I was interfering with her happiness, for which she had waited so long, and saying nasty things about her loving husband. Maybe it would have ended there, but she asked Tom, and he immediately found what to answer. I'm sorry, honey, I didn't want to upset you, but your daughter is deliberately provoking me. She's always hitting on me. Of course, it's not your fault she's grown up like this. You thought about how to provide for her. You worked hard. I have no complaints. And there, my mother believed him unconditionally. She called me names and demanded that I apologize to the offended Tom. So I packed my backpack with a couple of changes of underwear and documents and left. I also took my savings from my summer vacation job. Maybe it would have been reasonable to take something from Tom's wallet, but I couldn't. Otherwise, it would have looked like I was worse than him. Do you have a destination, or do you just love wandering around out of principle and love of nature? Kevin asked, catching himself in the thought that, for some reason, he believed this girl. I'm a fool, of course, but not like that, explained the girl. Of course I had a plan. I decided to go to the town where my father lives with his new family. We haven't talked for a long time, but I thought that he wouldn't refuse me shelter for the first time, at least for a fee, until I find a job in the city. But I was stupid again. I should have found out something beforehand, and I just came out of the blue. Of course, if I'd known my father's number, I would have called him. So I arrived. The house was there, but my father wasn't. He works on a shift in the far north. There was only his wife and the red-haired twin boys in the house. I showed her my documents, and she said she believed me. I look a lot like my father. She was calm, there was no hysterics. She told me that the house was her inheritance, and that there's no place for me here. She's not a charity case. So she advised me not to be a fool and go back to my mum. Well, she said all this more politely than I'm telling you right now, for brevity. I had nothing to say about that. She was right. She let me stay the night, and in the morning I went to the bus station. I was walking and I didn't know where I was going next, putting off the decision until I got to the station. And some freaks on a scooter drove by me at speed and snatched my backpack with my money, phone and documents from me. It was great luck that my passport was in my jacket pocket, the girl said, patting her pocket. What a story! And what am I supposed to do with you now? I can't just leave you here. By the way, did you bring your dog with you from home? No, it's Lucky. I gave her a sausage at the store. On the way to my father's house, she followed me and slept on the threshold. In the morning, she followed me. Oh, by the way, maybe you have any work for me? I'm fine with unskilled labour. I can clean and cook quite well. Would you start working right away? Kevin snorted. Why not? You really are a fool, June. Your mum was probably only concerned with your personal life and not your upbringing, if she didn't teach you not to get into cars with strangers. Thank you, Captain Obvious, the girl smiled. I wouldn't get in with just anyone. It's just that not many people care about anyone. I didn't expect anyone to stand up for me and Lucky. If someone helps me out and then listens to me, I think I can trust him. Logical? Kevin grinned. Are you hungry? I would eat a hamburger, June admitted. While June was eating her hamburger, Kevin was thinking about what kind of job to offer her. For the past months, he had been seriously considering hiring a live-in housekeeper and settling her in the empty guest house. Most likely as an accountant, this college graduate from the countryside was out of the question, but as an au pair, she seemed quite capable. Kevin had very little faith that the candidates recommended by the recruitment agency would be considerably better. Just keep in mind that this will be my first job, not counting handing out flyers, June said. This is not to say that I expect any understanding or leniency, but I need everything explained in detail. Daily tasks, weekly duties, and any little things for your convenience so that I don't have to ask unnecessary questions. The more detailed the instructions, the better the result will be. You are a sensible girl at times, Kevin snorted. It had been 2 months since June had been living and working at Kevin's house. So far, the man seems content with everything. Okay, good, he would say with a smile when returning from the office. June also called her best friend Peggy and told her where she was and what had happened to her. Well, at least your boss doesn't yell and demand the impossible. You're lucky to have such a reasonable employer, said Peggy, happy for her friend. Then, at June's request, she went to her mother and heard from her that she had no intention of searching for her daughter or verifying her whereabouts. June quietly cried for most of the night, burying her face in the shaggy fur of Lucky. She understood that she was not a priority for her mother, but it was one thing to feel and another to get confirmation. However, Kevin strongly advised June to inform her mother about her whereabouts. After all, a mother is a mother. She's not a monster, right? She'll certainly start looking for you soon. She'll start worrying, and she might even file a missing person report. Meanwhile, June got accustomed to her new job and housing. She was only afraid of Kevin's guests, but they were rare, and when they did visit, they mostly talked about business and behaved as if they were in a business meeting. She even started to worry, did he have real friends? Not just the smiling, polished or cautious business partners, but real friends who would have ordinary conversations. And then one Friday, Kevin returned home much later than he used to, at 3 a.m. However, he wasn't alone. A graceful, well-groomed brunette with coral fingernails on her long, slender fingers stepped out of his car. I should have quietly gone to bed after finishing my tasks, instead of waiting for him like a fool. June scolded herself for her miscalculation and for being unpleasantly surprised by the appearance of this beautiful girl. This should have been indifferent to her. Unusually, when there were important visitors, Kevin would call in advance and provide specific instructions. However, this guest was completely unexpected. The girl didn't respond to June's greeting and gave her an indifferent glance as if she were furniture. Well, that's fine, June thought, interpreting it as a permission to act the same way. She snorted contentedly and disappeared into the guest house, knowing that no one would bother her until morning. However, her plans were interrupted by an unexpectedly ringing phone. June didn't want to answer it, but it kept insisting. "June!" Kevin's deputy exhaled with gladness. "Thank God it's you. Are you at home or near your boss?" "Sorry for the stupid question at this time of day. His phone is disconnected, but I urgently need to reach him out." "Frankly speaking, I'm in my room." "June, I know I don't have the right to ask anything, especially after nightfall, but it's essential. I'm sorry, but there's a problem with the paperwork for the last big shipment of dried snacks. We just found out during the overnight shipment. We need to do something about it. Please, go to the main house and hand the cell phone to your boss. Can you do that?" "Okay, call me back in 5 minutes." June quickly put on a long robe that reached down to her heels, slipped her feet into sports boots, and quietly went out of the guest house. She purposefully stomped loudly on the stairs leading to the second floor, where the master and guest bedrooms were located, so that Kevin and his girlfriend would hear her. However, they didn't hear her. There was a heated conversation taking place outside the door, quite loud for this time of night. "Where did you see caprice, Kevin? It's a reasonable request from a girl with a sense of dignity. I'm not a prude, and I understand perfectly men's physiological needs. I've already made sure of that. Okay, if you're so conscientious and socially responsible that you can't fire her on the spot, write her an excellent reference and pay for a VIP package to help her find a job through a staffing agency. It's nothing personal, but I would like her to sleep with anyone's husband or boyfriend, just not mine." "Priscilla, no one has ever complained that I'm not clear about my position." Kevin's calm, tired voice could be heard. "I have no desire to offend you or June, and I have never had a thought about sleeping with her. I really don't understand why you are so jealous." The arguing didn't continue as June's phone started ringing in her robe pocket. The girl finally realized she was frozen like a statue in front of the bedroom, started pounding on the door with her fist. "I apologize for interrupting, but your deputy is calling about an urgent matter." Kevin opened the door and June handed the cell phone to Kevin. Without waiting for any comments, she turned and walked back. Peggy was right. Everything is going suspiciously well. It won't last long. You shouldn't get used to a good thing, so it won't be as frustrating when it's over, June thought on her way back. In the morning at 8 o'clock, she got out of bed and made coffee on a small gas stove. Sitting at a narrow table with a cup in hand, she looked around for her phone to dial Peggy's number. It was then that she remembered where her phone was. "I'm getting crazy," June complained to Lucky, who was lying at her feet with an indifferent expression. The girl found comfort in short conversations with her dog. There was no unnecessary chatter, just the essence of the question, and she could imagine the dog's responses. "Just don't get too carried away with this kind of therapy," Peggy advised half seriously. "Try making some acquaintances among the people there." No sooner had June sat down next to Lucky to think over the next steps in her life, burying her hands in the dog's withers, than the doorbell rang. "Come in, it's open," June replied, trying to sound calm. Kevin entered, placing her cell phone on the table. "Here, I'm returning it. My deputy and I inconvenienced you. It rarely happens, but sometimes it does. My phone ran out of battery at the worst possible time. Sorry." "I'm sorry too," June heard in her own voice. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation. I was just confused when I realized it was about me. I'll leave without any problems. Don't keep me here out of pity. You've been a great help. I won't be lost. There are people in much worse situations." "I don't know what you've made up in your mind, June, but I don't want to get into it." Kevin waved away tiredly and even grimly. "Forget everything Priscilla has said. I just thought that I found someone for a serious relationship, but it turned out that I was mistaken. As for you, you just keep working hard and diligently." Kevin had a habit of twirling different objects in his hands, a phone, a glass, or a pen. He did it when he was thinking about something. Now he picked up a thin sketchbook from June's dining room table. The man opened it, flipped through it, and became animated. "Wow, you know how to draw, but you never mentioned it." "You never asked about my hobbies," June said, the first thing that came to mind. "Lucky is like a living thing. Oh, and I only look this good after a vacation, when I'm disconnected from everything on the beach in the Dominican Republic. You've only seen my chief accountant once, but you've painted her like you've known her all your life. Listen, you have a talent. I'm not kidding." For the first time in her life, June wished the earth could swallow her up. She could handle criticism and complaints decently, but she was not accustomed to praise and felt lost, as if on an alien planet. Kevin's everyday voice brought her back to earth from her thoughts. "I'm going to the central warehouse and then to the office. My guest has already left by cab. Don't worry, it's unlikely you'll see each other again. Bye, see you tonight." He nodded and left. Lucky immediately took a deep breath, and June exhaled loudly and surprised herself with a feeling of joy. The arrogant beauty, Priscilla, had imagined that she had found someone who could be easily manipulated. Instead, she would have to start a new search. Kevin had hardly ever wondered about his personal life until recently. It didn't seem important at all. There was always more important things to do, requiring full immersion and complete dedication. So he didn't have enough resources for a full-fledged relationship. Of course, Kevin had resort romances, but none of them were pleasant enough to continue once the vacation relaxation ended. However, the man was content with his own way of life, except for the fact that his parents believed he was living wrongly and constantly reminded him of it. Even his mother, who used to understand him completely, went from being unreservedly proud of her son's accomplishments to suddenly declaring that all this is not as valuable when there is no one to share it with. "Mum, what about you and Dad? You have a new house and 2 cars, and you've started to see the world. I look at you, and I'm happy that I've been able to give you a comfortable life." "It's all great, Kevin. We're proud and we enjoy it, but we could have done without it. But seeing you happy is the most important thing for your father and me." "But Mum, do I look unhappy? I know what I'm doing, and I love my life. I have my parents' house to come back to. I have a close friend, Alex, and I don't need more. You know me, I just haven't met the person I want to see every day. I am not going to get married just because it's the right time, especially since people don't get married as early as they used to 30 years ago." "Yes, I understand," the mother sighed, feigning doomed sadness. Or rather, it was easier for Kevin to think that she was acting. One day, he accidentally overheard his parents talking and realized that they were seriously worried. "But I'm starting to think that Kevin still remembers Annie, and that's why he can't find anyone. Do you remember my Uncle Ben? He died as a childless bachelor. When he was young, he had his advantages, but as he grew older, he became so dreary. What if Kevin ends up like him?" "Rose, you'll come up with your own cause for alarm, and you've brought Uncle Ben into it. Kevin is nothing like him. He hasn't thought about Annie for a long time. He's making money now. He just needs several more years. It's normal for men. Look at what he's accomplished while setting up his business. After a while, he'll be ready for a family. So please, stop worrying." Kevin felt guilty, making his mother worry even though he didn't want to. But his father was right. He hadn't thought about Annie for a couple of years. She had faded into oblivion. Annie was his childhood friend and classmate. She was graceful, very quiet, with soft flaxen hair and big blue eyes, a princess from a fairy tale. Kevin was an excellent student, an athlete, and a recognized leader in the class. That day his roommate got the flu, and the newcomer Annie was seated next to Kevin. From that day on, they became friends and soon were seen as an inseparable couple. Sometimes girls, beautiful in childhood, grow up to be ordinary, But Annie was not one of them. She grew up to be a real beauty. None of the girls even challenged her superiority. It was considered a futile endeavour. After graduating from school, Annie showed little interest in further studies. She always achieved average grades and had no big career ambitions. Eventually she enrolled in a hairdressing course close to home. Kevin went to the city and immediately enrolled in college, and at a family gathering he declared that he would complete his studies, find a job and then marry Annie. Annie's mother worried that Kevin might find someone else in the city. She frequently visited with Kevin's parents to keep up with his life. Beauty is beauty, but there's always someone even more attractive. The college is probably full of girls who grew up in urban families, going to theatres and museums. Kevin might find them more interesting, the woman believed, voicing her concerns to her daughter. But never mind, as long as you show that you're loyal and decent. That's rare nowadays, especially with your looks. He'll marry someone like you. Kevin will achieve a lot in life. There's no need to consult a fortune teller. He'll dress you up and show you the world. When they're young, girls foolishly let good guys slip away. They think there will be plenty more, but in reality, there won't be. The mother taught her daughter. Annie waited for Kevin faithfully, as if she had no interest in other guys at all. Kevin's father was happy for his son, and once said to his wife, "Annie is a decent girl." But Rose wasn't so certain about that. "You know, Bart, if she behaved the same way in a big city, it would be great. But here, there's no one to choose from. The guys who want to succeed in life leave. And my future daughter-in-law doesn't need to look for anyone else. She already has a responsible Kevin." "Looks like you'll be a difficult mother-in-law." Bart raised his eyebrows with a sly smile. "I'll be good, and anyone who doubts that will find out," retorted Rose, playfully threatening him with her fist and laughing. During the first 2 years of his studies, Kevin would always come home for vacations, but on weekends and short holidays, Annie would go to see him in the city whenever possible. These trips were interesting from the start, but they became even more interesting after a year and a half, when Kevin started making friends and acquaintances in the city. The young man had a friend named Lucas, who knew the city inside out, as 3 generations of his family had lived there. Although his father had recently been transferred to an important position in the capital, Lucas and his mother chose to stay in the city until Lucas finished his studies. Annie quickly noticed that although Kevin was quick to grasp ideas and was often even more successful than his best friend, he still had much fewer opportunities than Lucas. Yes, Lucas had no pressing problems at all. His father and his new position in the capital offered him numerous prospects, and to Annie's great surprise, he didn't have a permanent girlfriend. Lucas himself revealed this at his birthday party, when he took Annie to a stylish library in his father's study. "Yes, don't look at me like this. I swear I don't have a girlfriend. But what if she's you?" Annie didn't hesitate for long, and soon they got married and left for the capital. The wedding was beautiful, followed by a honeymoon to Samui and Phuket. The beach photos were stylish and beautiful, taken by a talented and expensive photographer. In all the photos, Lucas had a broad, self-satisfied and triumphant smile, while Annie portrayed a gentle fairy. "Rose, I'm sorry that we won't be related, but we'll remain friends, won't we?" Annie's mother said meekly, stepping over the threshold of the Bravermans' house. "Come in, why put on a show for the neighbours?" Rose said. Annie's mother, carefully but with poorly concealed pride, handed her friend the photos. "Here, the kids sent them from Thai, and I decided to print them out for the album." Beautiful couple," Rose said almost indifferently, without mockery, as she glanced at the beautiful pictures. A crown prince and a glamorous pussycat. "Well, what do you want to hear from me? I'm glad everything happened now, that my son and your daughter didn't have an opportunity to get married and have a baby." As for Kevin, he did not say a bad word about the failed bride, and did not let others talk to him about her. He just quickly digested it all and never made any more relationships. Not out of principle or on purpose. It just happened that an invisible armour had grown around him. He didn't make friends either, only useful business acquaintances. His only friend was his classmate Alex, a bookworm, part-time snowboarder and mountaineer, an extreme sports enthusiast. And now Kevin said goodbye to Priscilla. He had been dating her for 6 months. Of course he had seen before that Priscilla was too capricious and liked money, but her last jealousy just finally put an end to the possibility of continuing their relationship. Nearly 6 months had passed. April arrived, and spring was already palpable in the coastal hills. June and Lucky discovered that there was a lot of dog lovers in the neighbourhood, and Lucky, a big and shaggy dog, played happily with expensive dogs, which were prize winners and participants in various exhibitions. Each of the nearest neighbours, whom Kevin did not know before because there was simply no time to get acquainted, now had a pencil portrait over the fireplace or in a cosy corner of the bedroom. Some photos showed a dog and children, others showed a dog with his wife and children, and still others showed a dog with his owner in his office against a bookshelf or a fireplace. One day Kevin invited an art expert to visit him. After looking at June's work, he approved with restraint. "Fresh, original. Where did you study?" "Accounting school." "It happens," the art expert said with a light smile. "But now, it's time to study for your vocation." After giving her detailed recommendations, the expert and Kevin went to the library, while June went to her guest house, sat on the sofa, and suddenly cried silently. If only her mother could hear what the gallery owner had said. June's memory brought back in detail the conversation she had with her mum before her high school graduation. "June, I will repeat it once again and I won't say it again. While I provide for you and clothe you, I will decide where you should go." "That's not fair. This is my life, and I don't want to end up with an unloved job like you." "My work allowed me to raise you, so don't be disrespectful. You all think you're smarter than your mothers at your age. Don't give me that look, as if I'm a terrible mother. If you had a wealthy father who would provide for you, everything would be different. Trust me, you need a profession that will always provide for you. Accountants are in demand everywhere. They start earning good money fairly quickly. They don't have night shifts or complain about elderly patients. My classmate manages several small firms remotely. It's a nice thing, having a cat on your lap and not dealing with annoying, bossy faces. And the artist's work is just too unstable. While an accountant, even an average one, will find a stable job. If you are lucky enough to marry a rich man, then do what you want, if your husband agrees to provide for you. Until then, it will be just like I said. Just before Christmas Eve, June gathered the courage to call her mum. "Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Mummy. I wish you happiness and good health. Are you at home for New Year's Eve? Not on duty?" "Thank you, June. Happy New Year. Tom and I have guests here. It's not very convenient to talk right now. Let's talk again the day after tomorrow, okay?" "Okay. It's my permanent number," agreed June, knowing she wouldn't actually call back the day after tomorrow. After the holidays, June kept working, took regular painting and drawing lessons on weekends, and thought very little about other aspects of her life. But on the first warm day, when it became clear that winter would not return, Kevin said to June, finishing his breakfast, "You've been working for me for more than half a year. You already may have 2 weeks' vacation. Go on a painting trip, for example. Think about when you want to go on vacation, and we'll agree tomorrow." Kevin said that and left. It's easy for him to talk about vacation. June had no idea where it would be better to go, so that it would be enough for the money she had saved for the winter. She had never been anywhere further than her hometown, not counting the school excursion to the capital after 9th grade, but she always wanted to travel. When she dared to dream and imagine that her life was going well, such dreams included travelling. The girl decided to honestly confess to her boss that she needed advice. But the next day, Kevin came home unexpectedly early, at 6 in the evening. "June, we need to talk. Will you understand if your vacation has to be postponed a little?" "Absolutely, no problem at all," June admitted. "I didn't even know that I was entitled to it if you hadn't suggested it." "I must somehow eliminate your legal illiteracy," Kevin said tiredly. "But that's later. I need your help now. My parents are coming over." "Do you want them to be comfortable while they are here?" June asked. "Don't be so tense," the boss advised her good-natured. "My parents are ordinary people from the provinces, without any pretentiousness. My father has a heart problem, and it turns out that there were signs before, but he didn't tell anyone, thinking it would resolve on its own, but it didn't. They've been recommended a good specialist here. I'll arrange it, and my father also needs positive emotions. Who knows how much time he has left? It's scary to say, but with his diagnosis, it's better not to deceive ourselves. My request may seem strange and absurd to you. You can refuse. I understand my mum and dad really want me to get married. Mum is already openly pushing me. Dad is more about male solidarity, but he's been worried too, according to Mum. If you agree to go along with it, I'll introduce you to them as my bride. They'll be so happy that it'll help them through life's difficulties. It will make things easier. Please don't refuse right away. Think about it. It's important to me. I would never ask for anything beyond your official duties if it weren't for matters like this." Kevin was tense and silently expectant. June realised it was her turn to answer without hesitation. "I understand the idea, lying to save the day, all of it. But what do we do next? You and I can pretend to be bride and groom, and your father will be happy. But later, we need to create a separation, even if it's a peaceful one. Your father will be even more upset after having such hopes, and it's not good for him." "June, I'm used to dealing with problems as they come. As they say, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. We can plan the strategy later, as the situation progresses. Right now, it's important for me to give my father and mother the strength to carry on with his problem. What about the second objection?" "Okay, but my second objection is that I'm not a suitable candidate. You're a wealthy man, and I don't fit to be a wealthy man's bride. Your parents probably imagine a girl from a so-called good family, if not a businesswoman. Your mother will understand this." Kevin's eyebrows raised in surprise, and for the first time during this heavy evening, he smiled, confused. "What a maze of psychology. I like your thoughtful approach to the task, and now I have more confidence that you'll do well, and my parents will really like you." "Well, there are actresses, aren't there?" June played her last trump card. "Not all stars are highly paid. Many actors need roles, and they can play Jacqueline Kennedy if they have to, so you could hire one of them." My parents would be scared of Jacqueline Kennedy, though," Kevin objected warily. "They would love a girl like you. I won't even explain why. I don't care about that now. You don't need to pretend. Just be yourself. But don't forget that we have a relationship. I promise not to get too carried away with the act and become overly affectionate. The most I'll allow myself is to hold your hand, especially since my parents are a bit old-fashioned and don't approve of public displays of affection. Please, help me out?" "Okay, all right, I'll try to do my best," June said, immediately regretting her words and feeling as if she had jumped into the water from a high swinging suspension bridge. "But you have to tell me more about your parents and childhood. Show me photos, because it's strange when a groom doesn't share information about his family with his bride. The more I know, the better chance I have of playing the part successfully. When are your parents coming?" "They will arrive the night after tomorrow. We will meet them and then go to dinner to get acquainted, celebrate the meeting, and make plans. My parents will be here for a week, and you'll be staying with me the whole time. We'll have to adjust our routine, get more sleep, and don't grab the vacuum cleaner or any of the other usual household tools. Think of it as the start of a vacation. The dinner at the restaurant was wonderful. June realised that she had been worrying for no reason. Or maybe not for no reason. But seeing her excitement, which she couldn't hide, Kevin's parents started doing everything they could to make things easier for her. "June, I'm pleased to meet you," Rose said quietly in the cosy restaurant while the men were choosing wine. "And I perfectly understand your excitement right now. Many years ago, I trembled with fear before the first meeting with my future mother-in-law. Bart was very attentive to his mother, and I wanted to make a good impression so she would approve of me. Of course, out of fear, I forgot everything and ended up looking like a complete fool. She probably even doubted that I was capable of studying to be an accountant. It's funny to remember now." "I too studied to be an accountant," June suddenly wanted to share. "But I can hardly bring myself to work in this field. It's just not my thing. I gave in to my mum's insistence." "Disliking your work can spoil a woman's character," said Kevin's mother. "I enjoy accounting, otherwise I would have quit it long ago, no matter what anyone said. Kevin told us on the phone that you paint and that you have a natural talent. He even sent some pictures of your job to us. Such vivid dogs, cats and children. And when I saw Kevin's portrait, all the anxiety in my heart disappeared. Well, he's finally lucky. He's not being deceived. It's obvious that you love my son. I'm not an art historian, but you can only paint like this with love. It's not just talent. Sorry if I embarrassed you." June blushed to the roots of her hair and was glad that Kevin and his father were busy choosing wine and hadn't heard what Rose had said. Of course, she tried to prevent herself from thinking about it. She blocked out any suspicious thoughts, but she loved him. She already had several dozen portraits of Kevin. To be exact, 48 works. They were painted in different seasons, moods and settings, all painted from memory, all safely stored at the very bottom of her linen drawer so that her boss wouldn't see what he shouldn't. She was certain that even when she left his house for good, she would continue this series of portraits for a long, long time. But they would never appear at her exhibitions, always remaining at her desk. And she would definitely paint today's portrait. Kevin would speak with his father, and they looked so similar and yet different, but both handsome and happy. On a small dance floor in front of the restaurant fireplace, a very interesting couple was slow dancing. A sturdy and dignified grey-haired man moved with little dexterity, clearly not accustomed to dancing in his life, but he radiated calm contentment and was not at all embarrassed by his lack of skill. His partner was a thin, red-haired girl in a delicate turquoise dress. She seemed a bit bewildered, with a slightly sad smile and yet happy eyes. "Don't be too harsh with her, Kevin." Rose took a moment to talk to her son while the couple was dancing, and they were alone at the table. "She's so vulnerable and much younger than you. You're taking on such responsibility. Don't let her down. I really like June. She's such a girl. How should I put it?" "Sophisticated?" Kevin suddenly suggested it, pleased with the word he had found. It was indeed true. He simply hadn't had time to fully comprehend what he had noticed long ago. "Hello, Kevin," a familiar low velvet voice murmured behind him. Hi, Mum. I'm going out for 5 minutes to talk to someone. You won't miss me." Then he quickly nodded to Priscilla and almost forcibly took her away before her mother could realise it. "I'm having dinner with a friend. I see you're in interesting company. You could have introduced me to your mother." Priscilla spoke with a gentle sneer as soon as they stepped out into the open veranda. "I wouldn't say anything bad about you to her, only good things. I don't understand why you're so nervous. You've always been so calm in the past." Did being involved with a young housekeeper wear you out so much? By the way, did you get fed up with her and decide to give her to your daddy? She will please him, of course, but at his age he must be careful. Think of his health. The purpose of all that you said? Trying to appear calm, Kevin exhaled stiffly. We girls sometimes act aimlessly. The carefree ringing voice of the quietly approaching mother echoed instead of Priscilla's. Your friend is just hurt. Very hurt. Right, honey? I think it's disrespectful to the parents to make them spend the evening in the company of their son's housekeeper. You have to separate those aspects of your life somehow. That's what I wanted to say to Kevin as my old friend. What you said, I heard perfectly well. Just think of it. A housekeeper. The mother theatrically rounded her eyes, which were on fire with joyful excitement. It's just a shame and an indelible disgrace for our noble family to sit at the same table with her. Well, I don't know in what wilderness you were brought up, but it seems nowhere, and no one has long been surprised that people get acquainted at work, and sometimes girls marry their bosses. I'm determined to have a good evening, and I don't intend to hear nasty things about my future daughter-in-law. Have a nice evening, Priscilla politely sang to her mother, and she hurriedly disappeared into the semi-darkness of the hall without showing her emotions. What a smug woman, Rose snorted angrily. And you're good too. What do you take me and your father for? Did you think we'd be against a daughter-in-law who had worked for you as an au pair? There are thousands of girls who take that job while they're still in school. Waitresses, hotel maids, yes, half of them are students. To avoid embarrassing June, I'll keep quiet for now. She's already excited, poor girl. So, let's go to them. The family returned home late. Thank you, my dear, for the wonderful evening, but now we need to rest. Good night, darlings, said Rose, hugged her son and June, and went to their bedroom. June and Kevin were left alone. The girl tried to appear calm and judicious. Am I doing everything right so far? She asked quietly. It's gone wonderfully well, Kevin assured her in a strangely warm voice. Only thanks to your parents. They're so easy to deal with. June, I'm going to ask you something. If I don't say it, I might miss an essential chance. I don't usually do that. Let's really be together? It's not for fun. No, not out of boredom. Not for my parents. What do you say to that? Come with me, June said quietly. I'll show you 48 of your portraits. I'll even give you one as a present. Whichever one you like.